I've had ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, starting with a flu-like on it in late July 1989, some 20-odd years ago. My purpose today is to point out treatments for CFS that have been highly successful for me and are worth the direction of research dollars, both to learn more about the mechanisms of the disease and to relieve some of the suffering of the nearly 1 million Americans whose lives have basically been ruined by CFS. The top treatment which can obtain near complete remission of symptoms in ME CFS, and I have my own experience and about 300 anecdotal remarks in evidence, the top treatment which can obtain near complete remission is intravenous infusion of ozone done 3 to 4 times a week with roughly 12 weeks to be expected before results. This has saved my life. My own story is that from 1992, my pharmaceuticals doctor worked out interventions very successfully involving substances that are dopaminergic and others that are norepinergic, and a protocol using bupropion or Wellbutrin as its base enabled me to start working again at the rate of roughly 25 hours a week. So that's something worth looking at if you do get back to work. However, I dragged along symptomatic but 50% functional for 11 years. Then, after 11 years of helpful drug therapy, something terrible happened. On September 16, 2003, my health broke down suddenly and completely, and I became absolutely unable to function. Immediately on September 16th, the problem was that I could not muster enough strength to write a fax to renew my about-to-become overdue library books. They got back $92 later. More generally, I went to a corpse-like existence of being 90% disabled and essentially bedbound. I couldn't shop, I couldn't prepare food, I couldn't think clearly, drifted from one non-existent day to the next, my life now wholly taken away. My loss of cognitive function was terrifying that winter. I couldn't write, pay bills, or make financial decisions. My new CFS specialist hypothesized that my immune system had broken down and did some expensive tests. It turned out I had the classic CFS immune system problems of not enough natural killer cells and too much activity of T cells. I also had a lot of infections, exceptionally high titers of Epstein-Barr, HHV6, and chlamydia in the blood. Nothing helped. My life was essentially over. And then, in March of 2005, by the grace of God, I found my way to a treatment with intravenous infusions of ozone gas. 3 times every week, I dragged myself across Midtown Manhattan, usually having to resort to a taxi, to obtain my infusions at the doctor's office. Now, to the uninitiated, this may sound very peculiar and even wacko or quacko, but it's not. Ozone, of course, is a widely used and recognized antiseptic. Intravenous ozone therapy is commonly used against pathogen-caused disease in Russia, Poland, and Cuba, all places where economics mitigate against high-priced pharmaceuticals. Many papers about this can be found in Medline. Most notably, IV ozone has been used successfully against antibiotic-resistant tuberculosis in Russia. Ozone is legal in New York State, among very few states, because the late Robert Atkins, best known as the diet doctor, but in fact an alternative physician as well, was able to fight a very long and very expensive legal battle in court to make it so. It was judged legal in New York. It should be legal everywhere. Anyway, after 12 weeks of treatment in June 2005, life began again. I could walk, talk, write, shop, cook, etc. I went on living for a year. I finished my course of treatment in June 2006. Life seemed pretty good. Unfortunately, off the treatment by September, I relapsed again, or I relapsed for the first time. And then I went back on the treatment. I obtained remission again. And then I was forced to go off the treatment because I had no veins left. I have very small veins, and there was no longer a viable means of obtaining infusion through veins. And It was a nightmare. In August 2007, I collapsed again. I felt sick all the time. I was desperate. For more than a year, I tried with every spare ounce of strength to learn about PICC lines and how to get one, because I knew that this could be my solution. Finally, in November 2008, after more than a year of living like a corpse, I managed to get a hospital to install a PICC line.
Please
This
wrap up.
also falls into the by grace of God category, 3 short paragraphs. I restarted Ozone November 5th. By February, I was again sitting up and writing. I could socialize, I could shop. And here I am via Amtrak, having just visited Egypt for 10 days, having done research trips to France in May and August. I'm alive and thriving. By the way, I'm not the evidence for efficacy of ozone in ME/CFS. In January 2007, during a public session of the IACFS conference...
6 minutes are now up, so please conclude.
Fort Lauderdale, prominent European clinician Kenny DeMerlier...
With all due respect, ma'am, others have honored the 5-minute, even Mr. Dessen this morning. We will accept your written, prepared comments. I want to allow as much time as I can for public comment this morning. Thank you, ma'am.